Hi, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about how to measure customer experiences. I've brought a couple of guests. Our first guest will talk to you about the philosophy of measuring customer experiences. Her name is Mary Drumond. She's a big name in the CX space. I'm so excited to have her here today. She brings a fresh look at what this all means, customer experience measurement, customer experiences. What are we doing here? She challenges our thinking. I can't wait for you to meet Mary. The next guest will be talking about how we actually measure customer happiness and how do we measure the things that contribute to customer happiness. So look forward to that in the second interview. And the final interview is my friend Eytan, the CEO of Semantica. As you've learned in the other episodes, Semantica is a journey mapping platform. It's the only one of its kind that maps all of the customer touch points and connects those touch points to data sources within your organization. It's kind of a complicated conversation, so I'm going to do that in an interview form. But before we get into that, I want to just talk about three commonly used terms of customer experience measurement. That's the NPS score. NPS score measures customer loyalty. The second acronym I'd like to talk to you about is CSAT, or customer satisfaction score. We're going to talk about that. Well, let's talk about it now. Customer satisfaction, that's what it does. It measures customer satisfaction. You take a survey, you rate how your experience was. It gives us an indicator on how customers are feeling and behaving. And finally, customer effort score, which is the score we use to measure the friction that's happening along the customer journey. So NPS, customer loyalty, CSAT, customer satisfaction, customer effort score. Those are the three main ones, but we're going to get into the philosophy, the happiness of customers, how we get there, and finally the full-blown measurement. With all that said, let's get into it. Let me welcome my first guest, Mary Drumond. And before we jump in, I just want to say a special thank you to Mary, who's our guest today. She gave me my start in customer experience. I was on her podcast. It was the first podcast I was on. I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago. Ever since then, I've had a chance to speak to many people in the customer experience industry, but I don't think any of it would have happened without Mary. So with that said, let's talk to Mary about the philosophy of measuring customer experiences. Mary?
I'm really happy to be here doing this with you. I adore working alongside you with anything that has to do with the customer. What I want to try to do today is cause some reflection. How often do you find yourself getting so caught up in the playbooks and the processes and the metrics and, oh, we need to do this, we need to do that. Is it NPS? Is it customer satisfaction, journey mapping, touch points, etc., that you actually forget why you're doing it in the first place? Where should you focus your initiative, your strategy, your efforts? You should focus them on getting customers to continuously buy from your business. And that equates directly to higher loyalty and less churn, which is what every business on the planet wants, right? So how do you find out how much the happiness or the sadness or the anger, etc., is weighing on their decision ultimately, and understand whether that emotional aspect and that emotional component should be the focus of your work? It truly gets down with perhaps stepping away from our fixation or fascination with metrics and quantitative research that's going to provide us with some numbers that are great for creating internal programs and benefits and rewards to make sure that your employees are thinking of the customer, or it's a really shiny number that your whole organization can get behind. But in truth, those quantitative metrics provide very little value into understanding why customers are making decisions, what they truly need, how you are failing them. But what I will challenge you to do is perhaps step away from your dashboards for a minute and engage in qualitative conversations with your customers and ask the right questions. And when I say ask the right questions, it's almost more like shut up and listen. give them the chance to tell you what matters to them. But being able to interpret that and build a story that can then create tangible, actionable strategies for the organization. So, not easy, in fact, quite difficult, a lot more difficult than perhaps letting a number guide your decisions. But ultimately, what is your job? Is your job to come up with a number that looks cool? Or is your job to inform people who are making decisions of what truly matters to customers and what's going to keep them coming back again and again?
What a great take by Mary. Now, moving into the next conversation I want to have with you. What is customer happiness? Where does it come from? Let's talk about where it comes from and how do we measure it. And for that, we're going to talk to my friend Patrick over at eTech. They handle global Fortune 500 companies, customer care teams, training, delivery, responses, the whole kit and caboodle. So Patrick's the perfect voice to help you understand how to measure happiness and how to measure the things that create customer happiness. Patrick?
Thank you so much for having me on to talk about how to measure customer happiness. And just a little bit of background about me. I'm the Vice President of Partner Strategy for eTech, and I've been with the organization for almost 23 years. And my journey was I started as an agent and I kind of moved my way through the organization, and I spent time, significant amount of time in operations. I spent time leading our quality department and then back into operations. And so my role right now is to really partner with our clients to make sure that we're strategically partnering with them to really bring solutions to the table that are going to help them gain market share and really wow their customers and deliver a remarkable experience. And so my experience here is like there are like 5 key things that I really want to cover today, right? So typically, when you think about customer experience and measuring customer happiness, you think of some of the key things, right? Like customer satisfaction. So most organizations actually start here. And it's the most traditional metric that can involve either the explicit capture of survey questions, asking about satisfaction, or implicit metrics such as product review ratings, timeliness of delivery statistics, or mystery shopping scores, right? And so you probably all already know about CSAT scores or customer loyalty, retention, churn. So how are customers sticking? What is the stickiness? What is the loyalty of that customer, the average tenure, their purchase frequency, the use of multiple channels, loyalty program participation, average order size, repeat orders, return rates, etc. Right? Then you also have advocacy, reputation, brand, net promoter. So you're all familiar with net promoter scores, 0 to 10. You got promoters 9 to 10, passive 7 to 8, detractors 0 to 6. But my passion is really is with the operational team. And so the thing that makes eTech really unique in the way that we approach driving customer happiness is from a quality standpoint with our operational team. And the way we measure that is through key behaviors. And so one of the things that really sets us apart and helps us to really drive remarkable results for our customers is we try to identify, anywhere from 3 to 5 like key critical behaviors that are going to really wow the customer. And so what we do is once we've identified those things, we put into play and we put into a scoring mechanism, a way to capture how our agents are performing in that area. So it's not just about like some CSAT score or some quality score of, okay, you check the box on this. It's these are the behaviors that are going to drive customer happiness and really have them be a brand advocate. And so that's one of the things that really makes eTech unique in the way that we approach this, is those critical behaviors. And then in addition to that, we really want to make sure from an employee engagement perspective, our employees are engaged, because we believe one of the biggest things and one of the biggest misses in organizations is making sure that the employee really feels empowered and they have the tools necessary to really own the customer experience and really deliver for that customer the end result and for them to have their issue resolved. And so when we couple those two things together, we spend a lot of time making sure that we're identifying and fine-tuning those critical behaviors. But we also want to make sure our employees feel engaged and feel connected to the brand, but also connected to eTech as an organization.
All right, finally, drum roll. Eytan from Semantica. Full disclosure, I'm partnered with Semantica. I've done this because they're the only journey mapping platform available that maps all of the touch points of the customer experience in a workflow that executives and leaders can contribute to in real time. But more importantly, Semantica connects all of those touch points to the data in your organization, whether it's CSAT, NPS, Google Analytics, Zendesk, the list goes on. So in order to elaborate on this whole concept of measuring customer experiences at scale for the enterprise, we're going to check in on an interview I recently had with Eytan.
Let me answer this question by giving an example of a customer which I worked with and that had the same issue. They were already running a customer experience program when I came. It wasn't something new, but they had no way to monetize the program, and people were looking and perceiving the program as a nice to have thing, which is often found in CX programs as something very nice, but not something core business. And the change that we have made using the platform and using our methodology is that we have connected all the customer journey mapping process that they have done to business KPIs, meaning that every stage of the customer journey was linked to KPIs that were measurable. We were transforming this KPI into a financial impact, meaning turning every opportunity that they wanted to implement and translating it into a business value. For example, if they had an opportunity to implement a customer portal, we would say that a project like a customer portal should impact the KPI like churn rate, customer satisfaction, the number of tickets and the SLA to resolve tickets. And each one of these KPIs was a measure that we translated into a financial impact. Then what we've done, we've measured the impact that this project had on the real results. So taking, for example, the churn measurement and checking before and after the implementation. That gave us a very clear indication that the CX initiatives that are being put in place as a consequence of the customer journey mapping process and the journey governance process are generating revenue for the company and are reducing also operational costs. We combine all of that in something that we call an ROI board. This is something very telling for senior management because senior management want to see numbers. They like fancy journeys, that's great, but if it doesn't speak their language of business KPIs, they disconnect very quickly. It works the first time, but not in the second meeting. So the ROI board is presenting all the experience frictions that were detected during the customer journey mapping process, with each one of them having a tag price of what is the financial value that it's going to bring to the company, either in saving cost or in generating revenue. And once you see 300 items with tag values, money on the board, and you say the customer experience program is going to resolve all of this. This is worth $3 million for you. We are working to solve. Each one that we solve is generating revenue or reducing cost. And then senior management can really associate to the program. And this is how the measurement is used on one hand to show that the customer experience program is generating money and is also helping the CX leader get budget for his program year after year. And the basic ingredient is understanding that there are touch points and that you need to manage all the information on a touch point level. And then from the low level, then you can aggregate things to the upper levels. So the touch point idea and the interaction idea where you actually have a communication with a customer in a touch point, this is what I call an interaction. This is for me the basic layer. I'm using this brick, like lots of bricks that you can build from a tower. If you're trying just to map something high level, no touch points or very vague touch points, you're missing the details. You don't have the granularity that allows you to go down and understand Where are the experience frictions happening? And they're happening in touch points when a customer communicates with a brand using a communication channel. I think that the big misconception is that you can measure only the customer experience part. Because I hear many CX leaders, they say, I have my CX program I'm running and I'm doing NPS, customer satisfaction, I have a customer effort score, trust score, engagement score, all kinds of scores. But this is just the experience layer. You're just answering the question about the experience of the customer. But then I see there's a disconnection in the measurement of how this impacted the business goals. Because at the end of the day, you have a company or an organization, doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be, it can be also a nonprofit. There is an organization. This organization has objectives. How do you show that the customer experience program and the measurement that you currently have of the experience matrix, the CX matrix, is impacting the business goals? The organization objectives need to be linked into the customer experience measurement. So this is the big misconception that I see, is when I hear people say, I am measuring my customer experience program, and I'm just saying you're measuring only part of it. You're just measuring the experience, but what about the impact it has on the business goals? You need to measure the link between them to see that you have a positive impact on the business objectives. And if you don't, then you can continue and do lots of nice things in experience and measuring the experience, but that doesn't translate into a business objective that your CEO is interested at. In the platform, we have more than 70 different connectors. So first of all, we're plugging the platform to all the data sources from which we can pull customer responses or surveys or any other matrix that is related to customer satisfaction or sentiment, and we're bringing it into the platform. So the first part is the connection of the data sources. Once we have the data sources, we have a workflow engine that connects the data source to the touch point in the customer journey and to the persona, to the related persona, because you can have different personas related to the same customer journey. So we are going to this level of granularity. And then the feed of the different surveys and responses, what we call the customer interactions, they are plugged into a touch point in a customer journey on a persona level. And that allows us to aggregate all these data sources and collect them per touch point. Then what we do is that we are providing a sentiment score to every interaction. The sentiment score is either coming from the survey itself, if it's an NPS or a customer satisfaction, for example, or produced by Semantica. We have an AI mechanism that scans the text and produces a sentiment score. We're collecting all the sentiment together and we are leveling it to a 1 to 5 scale. So there is a sort of a sentiment index that can gather all the different types of matrix regardless of their scale into just one scale per touch point in a customer journey per persona. And then you have a map where all the touch points where you have data, there are also places where you didn't collect yet customer interactions, and that's good because it's showing you on the map the areas where you don't have data. Voice of the customer data isn't available there, and the places where you have voice of the customer data. The measurement then is then we take this and we can measure the level of satisfaction on every interaction, and we define the CX matrix that we're using to measure that. NPS, CSAT, CES, etc. It can also be employee experience matrix, by the way, that we combine into the touch point. So it's not just the customer, it's also the employee perception that is regrouped into these touch points. You know, it's because there's a lot of raw data behind, and a decision maker can't go now through all raw data of thousands of records. It's the fact that you can see on one customer journey maps different smileys that shows you where are the highs and lows of the experience. It is orienting you to the areas that you need to focus on. And obviously, these are the areas that have lower experience that you want to start investigating, targeting, and improving the experience. Just another small comment. You don't want to do that just on any journey, okay? Because you can have many journeys. You need to also to focus on the priority journeys, the journeys that bring the highest value to the company. These are the journeys where you want to work on the experience frictions in the prioritization. So what I call value is what brings the highest business value to the company, okay? Because I'm always looking from what is the purpose of this organization and what are the business goals that were set. We shouldn't forget that the customer experience practice is here to serve the business. It's here for the business. It's a tool. It's a methodology. It isn't a means to an end. You don't do CX just to do CX. You're doing CX in an organization that has objectives and is using this methodology to reach these objectives and to be in continuous business transformation. So always looking at the business side and asking the question. For example, if I have a customer that says, I want to develop this segment because these are my VIP customers and these are the journeys associated to my VIP customers, my target in 2023 is to grow this segment, then these are the priority journeys that I need as a CX practitioner to focus on and to improve their experience because the business told me that this is the priority.
Thank you for sticking with me through this whole 8-part series. The next 8 episodes will be on AI. I'm interviewing people about ChatGPT. I'm going to head to New York to talk to some leaders who are developing the latest solutions for AI across all aspects of customer experiences. Should be an interesting series. I hope you'll tune in for that. If you have any questions, leave them in the description below. I'll respond to those. My contact information, as well as everyone you saw in this video, their contact information will be in the description. Thank you again for being here. And until next time, the future of CX is in your hands.